So good morning. It is 9:30 a.m. here in South Texas, and about 12 hours ago, my region of the world was struck with a couple of earthquakes. So last night, near my home here, because I live on the Karnes and Wilson County line here in South Texas, we felt a pretty significant 4.5 magnitude earthquake. Now, the USGS says that this struck around 9:26 last night, January 29th, 2025. And it was a pretty significant earthquake. I mean, my wife and I were sitting here at home. We could certainly feel the couch shake, and we could hear some things rattle around a little bit. This was not a small tremor. Usually we don't feel them. Most of the time you hardly even recognize it. But this one, you could certainly feel it. And we could feel it for probably no more than about 3 seconds max. Almost by the time that you realized it was happening, it was over. Now, this region of Texas is not unaccustomed to having some very minor earthquakes. I mean, we're right in the heart of frack country, and obviously fracking and injection has ticked up here a lot in the past month or so, kind of towards the drill baby drill thing, and we're seeing that kind of tick up a little bit. So it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see some more of these stronger quakes kind of begin to happen here. And the industry as a whole kind of says that these quakes are a kind of a result of a naturally occurring fault. And we do have some fault lines here, but they're very minor faults. They're not anything major. By far, I think a 4.5 is probably the strongest that we've seen. Now, there was a second earthquake about 15 miles away from where I live, near the community of Stockdale, Texas. And Stockdale is a very small farm ranch community, South Texas. Again, probably about 30 miles southeast of San Antonio, about 15 minutes from where I live. I'm probably closer to the first one. I'm somewhere between near Falls City and Floresville in Wilson County. So this is relatively close to where I live. The first one was. The second one was probably a little bit further. It was smaller magnitude. It was a 2.6 on the Richter scale, and it occurred around 12:15 this morning, the 30th of January, 2025. Again, with neither one of these quakes, I haven't seen or heard of any reports of damage. I was listening at the scanner last night. I don't think anything really significant happened with these quakes, but certainly we did feel them. From my experience, we were sitting on the couch watching the tragic news about the plane crash in Washington, D.C., and my wife was, she was grading papers or crocheting or something. And, I just kind of felt we were sitting there, and my wife just kind of looks at me, and she's, what are you doing? And then, I kind of it was an earthquake, and, so almost 3, no more than 4 seconds, you could feel it. Certainly you could hear some things rattle in the cupboard. Like glasses and tumblers and cups and stuff. You could hear that rattling a little bit, but again, nothing really significant. It's one of those things where most of the earthquakes that we have here, you don't even feel them. Most of our earthquakes are usually about no more than 3 on the Richter scale, but a 4.5 was pretty significant. Now, one of the concerns that I have with this is I use a couple of apps. I of course follow the USGS app, that's very common. And there's also another one, I think it's some sort of earthquakes app, and I should have checked this out here before I did this video, but you can see this app. Here's my concern with this, okay? My concern is that these apps didn't update for about 10 minutes. It took the USGS about 10 minutes to finally update their website, have some information on this thing, but the earthquake app, again, probably following the USGS, took about 10 minutes or so for this stuff to update. That's one concern that I have, because as the earthquakes are becoming more frequent, and is they're obviously becoming a little bit stronger. Now, we could say that this was a fluke, whatever, but I do know that we've seen an uptick in the injection here over about the past 3 to 4 weeks. You're seeing a lot more trucks, a lot more people, a lot more personnel coming in here. You're seeing a lot more injection and a lot more fracking happen here in this area. And it's funny, I just telling some folks the other day, I said, yeah, I said, look at all the trucks, the sand trucks and the frac trucks coming in here. There's a ton of them up on the highway. Probably have a little earthquake here pretty soon, and I think that was on Sunday, and this one happened on Wednesday night. So again, you know, you can almost tell when these things are going to happen because of the amount of trucks and stuff that you see on the roadway. And obviously, you know, if you just listen to some of the scanner traffic and some of the radio information, you can definitely tell. And you just, as a journalist, you can see sheer observation, you know, when they're out there doing these injections and stuff. So, you know, I feel like this is, you can almost tell when it's going to happen. And that's strange. That's an interesting observation. Now, it may just be, you know, the way things are going to be from now on, you know, the new normal. But I think we can deal with the occasional 4.5. My concern is if they become stronger, longer, and more frequent. That's my concern. And I don't think I've gotten an answer from anybody from this. I've reached out to industry experts, of course. They're denying this. You know, you try to get a hold of the Railroad Commission, which I'm really disappointed in. There's a lot of dead ends there. USGS, a lot of dead ends there. It's typical government, right? They don't want to deal with what they want to deal with. Collecting a paycheck, right? That's neither here nor there. I think we need to bring in more science, more relatability. We need to get to the bottom of this, because these apps, including the USGS, are just not cutting the mustard. And I think that we need to work more on getting notifications out. Now, I'd be curious to know if you live in California, you live in the Dakotas, you live in Pennsylvania, maybe somewhere where there's significant earthquake activity, fairly common. I'd like to know how quickly you get notified of these things, because like I say, we weren't notified for about 10 minutes. This happened just before local news. I put a tweet out shortly after it happened, and then once again confirming it. Again, nothing, absolutely nothing. It took a very minimum of 10 minutes, and I guess part of the reason is you know, is that we live so far out of the city center that the news stations in San Antonio, KMOL, WOAI, KENS 5, KSAT, I guess, you know, we're just kind of typical, right? Not very important. But, you know, what happens out here is just kind of a, anyway, that's a whole nother story. As somebody who's worked in the media. But I do feel like we need to get these notifications out there. So if you're watching and you have an idea, I'd love to hear it. And I think that's how if we can't control the earthquakes and we can't control the industry, then we need to control the timing and the responsiveness of them. And I love to see some of this citizen science that people are doing out there with putting in these reports and things like that, you know, where they're kind of like imping, you know. But I did notice on the USGS they have some citizen science reports where you can report your data, any damage or anything like that. I would strongly agree that you should be trying to use these things. So anyway, to sum this whole thing up, this little video, last night, January 29th, 2025, about 9:25 p.m., we did feel one here, and like I said, I'm probably about 5 miles from Falls City, from the center, so we felt it pretty good here at our place. We felt it pretty good. The second one was about 12:15, January 30th, 2025, in the morning, near the community of Stockdale. And Stockdale is, I think that one was a 2.6. Anyhow, so I think the bigger, again, going back to this, the bigger question is, how do we get the notifications out? This is really important. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is an interesting conversation, and it's a conversation that I think we need to have. Safety, weather, notifications, especially for earthquakes.